So I was wondering actually about these procedures that we have been writing, these different things to find out facts about the data. So it seems a little odd that we just keep writing these procedures as and when we need them. But actually we are only going to use a given procedure, like if we want to give 3 prizes, this procedure only makes sense, for instance, for this scores data set. We can't award top 3 prizes, for example, for the shops or for trains. Right?
That's right, yeah.
So it seems a bit odd that we have these procedures and then we kind of have no direct connection. If you look at a procedure, in some sense we don't have a way of identifying clearly what data it is supposed to work on, what data set in our cards, which cards are going to be using this procedure and which cards.
The other is that I think procedures in general in real life, they don't mean much, right? They are subservient. So when we see data objects lying all around us, we don't see procedures lying around us.
When we have some data, then we do some operations on it to get some information.
If we see a procedure, if at all we see any procedure, it will probably be packaged with some data.
So there will be some context, some setting in which the procedure. So they won't just be.
So I might have a television. You buy a television, then it comes in a box, nice box, and you open it, take out the television. Usually it's nowadays the television become more complicated, but luckily for us there is this manual thing.
Correct.
So you open the manual and it tells you, okay, this is the switch, that switch, this switch, so many connectors in the back and all that. So what to connect where, how to power it up, what to do, how to set it up, how to set up if you have Wi-Fi or some other thing, right? Today everything has.
Correct.
So how to set up all that. So all that is written in the
instruction manual.
But that thing is inside the box with the television.
Correct. No point in saying
it's
that.
Not that you go and buy a
manual separately.
And then you figure out which television to apply to or something, right? It's not like that.
Correct. So I think so there is some mismatch. I think the way we have been looking at it, I think we need to somehow connect these two.
Connect the two, and also the other thing is that when you said that the procedure is related to some data, we also saw that procedure needs some data outside it.
Correct.
Some of the data is inside the procedure. Like when you keep a count or something, it's inside the procedure. We keep count and then we keep updating it or something like that. But some of the data is outside, side effects or whatever we call it, right? They are outside the procedure. We are acting on the cards which are outside. In fact, there may be 2 procedures. One procedure may call another procedure. Both of them may work on the cards. And then this may return something. So you have to know which procedure shares what data with what other procedure.
And the impact that it will have.
And what impact it has, what side effect it has. Now, right now it's messy. Right now it's messy. We are not keeping track of all that, right? So there must be some better way of organizing these procedures.
So I think like that box you said, like the TV box, right? So we can think of so we buy a set of marks cards, for instance, and when it is sold to us, along with some procedures, some things that we can get out of this.
Prepackaged.
It's prepackaged, and maybe there is a way to add things.
So you ask,
customize it.
See, right now the procedure itself, who's doing the procedure here?
It's not even clear. Correct. We are executing the procedure. Correct.
But who is we? Suppose I give it to the student is doing, then what? So it's not very clear who the owner of the procedure, right?
Yes.
So now what you're saying is that the marks card will come with some procedures. And those procedures belong to the marks card,
Sort of. So it's like you have an app on a phone, right? So there are some buttons you can press and it will do something with the data inside and press it. But maybe you can customize the app. You can add a button, you can move it around. But ultimately everything is inside. You don't have a clear idea of, what it's supposed to do. Right? It's told if you press this and this will happen. Like supposing you are keeping track of say some calendar or something, you can add an entry and you can set it to give you an alarm when the time goes off. All these things you can do, but you are not really keeping track of how it maintains all this information and how it remembers.
So the procedure, if it is inside some object, if it is sitting inside the thing on which it is working, what does it mean? You have this, so let's say marks cards, right? You're saying the procedure is attached to the marks card, not outside, inside,
Inside,
So if it is inside, then
so inside, I would see, you think of this ATM like thing, right? So you have an ATM. So what do you see? You see a display on which it can tell you some information. Then you will typically have some panel here where you can press some buttons. right? And then you have this slot here where you can put in your card,
Yeah.
and then you have some slot here which can give you money.
Yeah.
So in this way, you can think of this whole thing as some box
Yeah.
in which you can interact with it by pressing these cards.
Yeah.
Right? Occasionally, you might want to give it some information,
Hmm.
which you can push in through a slot,
Hmm.
and then it has to give you something back.
Yeah.
If it can't display it, if it has to be something else, so you have these different ways in which you can
interact with this.
You can interact with it,
So
but
it
you
is
can also
controlled.
ask it to do something, because it will give you a menu. It will say, do you want to withdraw money?
Right,
do you want
right,
to check your balance? Right? So you can press that
So
button.
the ATM, in a sense, it is packaged in a way that it controls what it accepts from you and what it gives you. Huh?
Yes.
The interfaces are controlled.
So this is a very sort of rigid kind of thing,
Very
where
rigid, yeah.
where we don't have flexibility.
Flexibility.
But what we are saying is, in a similar way, supposing we are able to
Also,
add buttons to
I
it.
presume that ATM also some guy writes a software, he can change it, no?
Yeah, he can change it, but we can't.
We can't change it.
So, but if we are designing the cards and we want tomorrow to change 3 prices to 5 prices, or we want to change the criterion or something, we have the flexibility to change that, but it will remain attached to the card. So the next person who comes will see the same thing.
So he can just take the card deck along with all its procedures.
Yes. Yeah.
And he can modify the procedures.
Yeah, if you give him permission to. Yeah,
if and then he can give that modified thing to somebody else, and they can work.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that the procedures and the cards will go together as a unit. So there will be no doubt as to.
So in this case, if let's say the marks cards, you have procedure sitting inside it, not outside, inside it. Okay. Then if it's inside it, then you have to just like the ATM, you're telling the ATM, you have to tell the marks card to do something.
Exactly. So like you press a button, so it will give you an option, right? What do you want me to do? So do you want to do banking? Right? Typically, this is what an ATM does, right? You have what services do you want?
Right.
And then you press a button, and then it offers you some more choices. So similarly here, you will have a menu saying what do you want me to do. So I want you to tell me top 3 physics marks.
Right.
So it will say, okay, here are the top 3 physics marks. Maybe, as it said, it could have an option to change itself. I want to add a new data card. Say new student has come. Maybe that's also possible.
Just like
I can like a card, I can feed in some information. So I could change the
data
inside possibly, if it allows me to.
And the fellow from outside can't see inside what is going on.
Yeah. So for instance, we saw that there may be different ways to find out the maximum. Maybe you already keep it arranged, so it's the top card. Maybe you have to search through the whole thing. We have no idea whether it's doing this or that.
Except just found out the top 3 physics marks and kept it.
Yeah.
When you ask it, it just gives it.
Yeah, maybe it knows that this is a popular question, so it just keeps it written down somewhere, so that it instantly gives you the answer.
Or it keeps it sorted.
Yeah, or it keeps it sorted, so it always knows.
When you ask 3 or 5, it will take the top 3, top 5, whatever.
So it doesn't have to search each time. So we really don't.
Or it may have done nothing, then it may have to do the whole thing from the beginning.
Yeah.
But as far as from outside we are seeing.
Yeah. So we may get to know because it takes a long time. But that also it could fool us, right? It might pretend it's doing a lot of work and then tell us the answer, and actually it knew the answer all along.
And we don't care really.
Yeah,
we don't care.
Yeah, right now we don't care. Yeah, because we are interested in getting the answer that we want.
Okay.
We are at the moment not too bothered about how much time it takes and whether it's. I mean, of course, a reasonable time. It should be doing it in a reasonable time. But we are not going to be overly. I mean, these things don't take so long that we will see the difference very obviously. So I think so long as it tells us correctly what we expect it to do, so that part of the contract.
Right? Suppose we ask this marks card data set. Let's take that out.
Okay, so let's take.
So that's this. Now this is an object, except that this object, this creature, is in a box. I presume.
Yeah. So we can't look at the
inside.
Yeah. So we can't look at the individual cards.
We can't see.
If we want to see a card, for example, we might know there are 30 cards numbered 0 to 29. So maybe we can say, tell me the total of card number 17, or who's the name of card number 5, or whatever. But we can't directly lift the cards the way we have been doing. That's not available to us anymore. We have
the guy inside, the procedure inside.
Yeah, somebody inside, one little.
So we are inside.
Yeah,
we are a procedure
inside.
Yeah,
so we have been acting like these little creatures sitting inside the box, who are moving these
the cards
around. Yeah.
So somebody inside will do all the work, some ant will move around the work, do all that, and then he'll return the answer.
Yeah.
So suppose I say, give me 3 physics, the top 3 physics marks.
Correct. Yeah.
Now what does it mean? I mean, this guy first has to accept that instruction.
Yeah. So you have this. Yeah. So we have this box.
So I have to be able to tell this fellow.
Yeah. So we have this, like the picture that this ATM. Now we have the scores box, right? And somewhere inside the scores box, these cards are lying around, right? In some stack or
somewhere he is keeping it.
Maybe
we don't know.
like
we can't see it.
We don't know whether he keeps it vertically, horizontally, nothing.
No idea. 1 pile, 2 piles. We don't know.
Yeah. And now here there will be some kind of questions that we can ask. There will be a button which says max 3 physics or something. Right? So we can press that button.
Okay, all right.
And then somewhere here
Hopefully we should be able to parameterize.
Yeah, that we can figure out later on, but basically we could have, so yeah, again
3
like
can become 5 like that.
yeah,
So physics can become chemistry.
yeah, so like in this ATM, you could say I want to find out maximum, and you say how many you want, you press the button, which subject you want, you press on the screen.
Right, like
so
that.
these kind of things. So parameters you can always pass through something, and then it will do some
Whatever it does.
Yeah, some processing on this.
What does it give back?
So it will give you back.
Can't give you cards, no?
It won't give you the cards. It will give you the numbers or the names or whatever you agree is the correct answer to give back to you.
But the thing is a list, huh? 3 list it
It will give you a list of some form. So it will display the list in some form which we agree on in advance how it should display. So that is part of this. So this we had talked about this procedures having this contract. So this contract includes the form in which it gives you the answer back. So otherwise it's a black box.
So you know, right now again we are thinking about us as you and me as human beings talking to a box. But the guy who's asking this box can be another box. Huh?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Huh?
Yes.
So one box can ask another box.
Yes. One box can ask another box.
So the box can ask itself also.
Yeah, it could ask itself also, correct. So for instance, you could have the box could internally be able to parameterize, right? Get the top 3 marks of any subject. So it might have its own procedure inside which does that. So when you ask the box to get the top 3 marks or the top K marks in subject S. So when you say K is 3 and subject is physics, then it will call itself its own internal guy with those parameters, and it will give you back the answer. Right? So it's like
the box can call itself, the box can call another box.
Yeah.
We can also call the box.
So even when we call the box, effectively it is like we write some procedure which calls. We don't call the box from.
We will write a procedure.
So finally everything is.
Finally one procedure.
One procedure is So there is some main context from which we call this.
The box. So that big procedure, one main procedure. Hopefully everything else is boxes. One main procedure. This guy calls boxes one after the other, and the boxes in turn may call each other, call itself, do whatever is necessary, and finally
it spits
the
out
answer is spits out the answer is part of it. It comes out somehow. This is an interesting method. I mean, is there a name for this method? I mean, this business of packaging it nicely like this in a box and making it.
Yeah. So basically, you're putting it inside like this time capsule kind of thing, right? So everything is there. So if you time capsule, you send out something into outer space which is supposed to represent all the world civilization, so that somebody could look at it and then say, oh, this is what these people look like, this culture in this faraway planet.
Yeah.
So same way, this is like a capsule, right? So this is a capsule which consists of
everything, whatever you need about these cards.
It has all the information, all the data about the cards, and it has all the procedures that you can use to operate on the data. So everything is there. So this is basically encapsulation. You know, you're putting
encapsulation.
You're putting things into.
That's a capsule. Okay. You got it from the word capsule.
Capsule. Yeah.
Encapsulation. Okay. Yeah. Encapsulation.
Yeah, so we'll call it encapsulation.
Encapsulation. Encapsulation basically means that we are
putting everything into one box. Into
putting the cards as well as putting the data as well as the
procedures together. Yeah, into a unit, so that they are tied to each other in a fairly tight way. You know, so the data knows what can be done to it, and the procedures know what they are operating on. And as you said, they can share information that they have partially computed and keep it so that they don't have to do it again and so on.
So these objects, we are creating objects. I mean, this is related also to object-oriented something, right?
Yes.
So people keep saying object-oriented.
Yeah, so we can think of this. Yeah. So this whole thing is an object, right?
So it's the same thing, is it? Object-oriented and encapsulation, are they the same? Or?
Well, I guess they are related, obviously. So encapsulation is more, I guess, abstract idea that you have some data and procedures together, and concretely you call such a unit. So an object is like a concrete unit of this thing. So this is an object. Then if you take the shopping carts, that will be another object, and so on. And each of these has got an encapsulated set of data and procedures.
So strictly speaking, this one card is also an object, right?
Yes. So it's an object consisting of objects. Yeah. So yes, we could think
of one card as one. Yeah. Because it's got inside it. So I mean, just take this one card, right? So we got basically this profile. There's a student profile, and then there are some marks. Of course, right now we have only listed marks, 3 marks. Yeah. You could have more marks.
Could be more subjects. Yeah.
You could have many years. You could have looked at his marks in 12th standard. You could look at his marks 11th standard, 10th standard, like that.
Correct.
Chronologically, you could look. The profile won't change. Some part of it can keep.
Yeah.
So there should be some way of organizing this object itself in a much more interesting way, right? Then you have the collection of these objects which basically makes up this card deck.
Correct.
Which is a set of all the objects which are together because they are in the same classroom or something.
Yes.
Right? That is why they are together. But in principle this also is an object. So everything can be converted into an object or what?
Well, generally things which have some structure, I mean you wouldn't like to think of a number as an object. For example,
So
we are
like 3 June,
yeah,
3rd
or
June.
count, supposing we are keeping track of a count.
Count. Count is not an object.
Count is not a very interesting object.
Not
You
interesting
can only
object.
tell
What
us
you can
or count and you can add one to it and subtract one from it.
So it has to have some reasonable amount of structure.
Yeah.
Like this card itself has some structure, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and something which we can do, some interesting operations we can
You can
like
do
for
with it.
example, things that we can do with this is we can add up, for instance, supposing we didn't have the total, we could ask you, or you can say find the total of the top 2 of the 3 subjects, or which is the minimum subject.
Which subject you are doing best at?
Yeah, which subject is best, which subject is worst, all these questions we can
can
ask, right? So these are all interesting questions, whereas if you just had one number, like you're storing count or something like that, it's not,
doesn't
or
make
max so far.
So in some sense, after some level of complexity, which means that once the object has become sufficiently interesting that there are enough procedures to be applied to it.
Yeah,
At this point in time, it starts making sense to
think of it as an
think
object.
of it as an object and put. But if you do too many objects, then
Yeah.
whole meaningless it becomes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it becomes meaningless. But even here, yeah, so we have to make a conscious decision. Do we
Whether
want to
we
think
want to
of
do this or not.
one card as an object is more interesting, or a stack
Bunch
of
of
cards
cards.
as an object is more? It depends on how we are going to use it.
Yeah.
So when we are asking questions like top 3 prizes and all these kind of things, it makes sense to think of the whole stack,
Whole stack
as an object,
as an object,
Right.
not one card.
not one card. But maybe in some other context, for instance, in a shopping bill,
Look at
or
that, shopping bill.
yeah, we can look at the shopping bill, for instance. So here, if we look at these cards, right? So now, of course, we also have this idea here that they are separated into these different types of shops.
Right.
So we can decide whether we want to think of the shop as one,
Shop may be a better object.
as a unit, right? So then we can
Because the shopping bill
yeah, so we can
is owned by, no, actually it's owned by 2 people, shopping bill. It's
Yeah.
owned by the customer.
yeah,
Customer
And
keeps a copy.
customer
Shop
can-
keeps a copy.
yeah.
So the bill itself actually is a record
of a transaction between 2 people.
between 2 people.
So it's not like here where it's essentially one person's.
So here the natural object is the whole bunch of cards. We could also think of one student as a card.
Yeah.
But the whole bunch is a much more natural object. There is very little use for one card actually, right?
Yeah.
In that sense, to make it into an object. But here, there is something in between.
Yeah. So there
Between
are
the
these.
whole deck.
Yeah. So there are these collections which are grouped either by
So what would be an
custom-
object here? An interesting object might be a shop.
a shop, could be an interesting object. So we want all the bills of SV stores
You can-
together, and
so
we
SV
can
stores is an object. So we ask SV stores, hey SV stores,
ask what item do you sell the most.
what items did you sell the most?
Yeah.
How will it do that?
So it will have to go through all its bills and then keep track of all the items it has sold and keep counting for the same item. If it sold it multiple times, it will keep either the value or the count, whatever we decide by most,
Yeah.
and then it will tell us.
It will
Okay,
tell us, okay,
the
I
item
sold,
that so
let us
many
say,
so many units.
milk or something.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever it
It will
is.
probably
I
be
don't know.
milk.
I sold milk the most.
Yeah.
SV stores will say.
Yeah.
You could ask the same question to Sun General. Hey Sun General, tell me,
Yeah. Exactly.
what did you sell the most? That guy might say apparel or something. Okay.
Yeah. So here this becomes like a procedure where we have, I mean, internally the procedure will ask. So there is a big box which has all these cards,
Yeah.
and it has these smaller objects inside.
But the thing is, you can have shops. So shop is an object.
Hmm.
So you can have 3. So in this case, you have 3 objects, 3
Yeah.
shops, 3
Yeah.
objects. Customer can also be an object.
Yes. Internally, yeah, we can organize it by say Ahmed. So Ahmed is shopped in these 3 things. So you can put all of Ahmed's bills together and ask Ahmed, what item do you buy the most, or which
So
shop
the
do you
bill is
visit?
there. So the bill has to be there. Both have to have the bill.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Both have, because they need
Yeah.
the bill.
So
Or you
this
keep
is
the
a-
bill somewhere else and this guys can
Yeah.
have
So
that.
this is a little bit like we talked earlier about this indexing, right? So we have
Indexing, yeah.
the bills are there.
Bills are there.
So
Both
we can
have
either
access to it.
refer to it through the shop side. So the shop has a copy of its bills.
So how does it look? I mean, can we draw a diagram of these objects, how they look? You have 3 shops and maybe, I don't know, 10 or 12 customers are there. I don't know how many customers are there.
Yeah. So I think there are quite a few customers. So what I would say is that, at the bottom you have these actual shopping bills, right, which are there.
Okay. And that we can put in a box.
Then we put that in a box, and then we will have this SV stores, Sun General and Big Bazaar, is it?
Big Bazaar. These are 3 boxes of their own.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. So these are 3.
So these are 3 objects.
3 objects.
These are shop objects. Maybe we should write it shop
Yeah,
objects.
yeah, so let's
These are shop objects. Shop objects, and this is the bill object or whatever it is. I don't know.
yeah. So these are the bill.
Bill object or something. This is holding all the bills, right? And then we have one more crazy thing, which is the customer object.
Yeah.
And here again you have for each customer like Ahmed and all that you have one. Each of them you have one box, right?
Yeah.
Now you can ask Ahmed. Presumably you can ask Ahmed, right? No?
Yeah.
Previously we were not thinking it like that. Now I can go and ask Ahmed. Hey
Yeah.
Ahmed, tell me.
Yeah. So Ahmed will have
He'll have some
somehow
procedures.
he will so he will know which of these
Bills belong to him.
bills belong to him. So he will be pointing to a collection of these bills.
So he will have these bills, access
Yeah.
to these bills.
Yeah, access to these bills. And the same way
And we don't need to know how he has access to them.
yeah,
We don't
and
care.
Sun General might have access to some bills, and there will be some bills. So this is access belongs to Sun General and to Ahmed. So this is a bill where Ahmed is shopped at Sun General.
So you can ask Ahmed, tell me what item you bought the most.
Correct. So it will go. He will go through his bills
He will go through his bills,
and do this.
whatever, and he will do whatever. He'll keep track of all the items,
Yeah.
how
And he
much
will
of it he bought,
And he will tell
find
us
out the maximum of that,
Yeah.
and he'll return back to us something which says
which item
whatever
and
item
what.
and how much of it he bought. Then I can ask the same question to Sun General. Hey Sun General, which item you sold the most?
Correct.
Then he'll do something and he'll come back and say, hey, Ahmed, it looks like you are shopping only in Sun General. Because both answers came out the same.
Correct.
Could be, no?
Yeah.
So this is interesting way of looking at it, right? Because earlier we were not looking at it like this. This makes it really very intuitive, because when that's how we do in life, real life, right? When we want to do something, we go ask somebody
Yeah. Who has the information?
who has the information.
to give us some summary or some.
He may do something, right? He may in turn ask if you may not know the answer.
Correct.
He may ask somebody.
Yeah.
Or he may say, no, let me search for it. He may have something in his book, or somewhere he may have stored it. He will search, he'll do something. I don't know what he does. But the result is that he'll come back and tell me,
Yeah.
this is it. This is what you should do. Right? He'll give me advice, whatever it is. So this is a very natural way. And so this, what do you call it? Object-oriented encapsulation.
Yeah. So encapsulation and these objects, and then so we are programming with respect to these objects. Right? So everything that we do is kind of.
So the encapsulation seems to make things much more closer to real life.
Yeah.
Than what we had done earlier, where
Yeah.
we had some
Yeah. So there we had procedures on one side which
very
were kind of
ghost-like creatures.
and then we would feed them data, even though the procedures themselves were somewhat picky about what data they would use. So there was no direct connection. Now we are saying that the data is connected directly to the procedures.
So the key thing about this, I think the most interesting thing about this is that the data that the procedure needs to have access to is very well defined now, because either he has it inside, or if he doesn't, like in Ahmed here, if he doesn't have it inside, he has a specific contract with another object through some well defined interface to get whatever data he needs to do his work.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Correct.
So similarly, Sun General, the object basically has its own contract with bill objects to get whatever it needs to do its work. So the access to the data that the object needs, that part of it is extremely well defined now.
Yeah.
Unlike what was there
and under control. In some
and
sense.
under control.
You can decide what information you give, what information you don't give. Right.
So that way it's much better organized, and also the way of asking objects to do things for us and the objects talking to each other and asking things about each other makes it very close to real life.
Yeah.
So this method of organizing things seems much better, but we have to try a real example, I think. Then only it becomes more fun, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks definitely appealing, much more appealing than what we have tried so far.
Yeah. So let's try and do something after this with one of our earlier examples.